Сейчас.
Вот листик забрал.
Ну, я сегодня поделаю. А сообщение найдете? Черненко? Что?
Это все лайк.
Я занята.
А тогда не будет задачи. Да. По поводу того, что преподаватели могут поработать.
Я думаю, что там можно будет еще сместить.
Нет, дело в том, что конференция. Где у нас конференция?
А вы фотографируете, снимаете? А мы вас знаем.
Здравствуйте.
Врач, мы вас знаем.
How did you arrange? How did you settle yesterday? Okay.
Fine, yeah.
So that's Ukrainian.
Well, yeah, that's right. Thank you, that's it. I've learned how to play drums too.
Other languages. He's also very gifted.
Why don't you assign us where we're supposed to be, and we can start whenever we're ready. Yeah, I'm in. Yeah, that's fine. But hi, Vitaly.
Fine. How are you? Okay. I'm glad to see you again here.
Are you going to put the presenters over at the lectern, or would they give them the middle of the?
I'm Robert Rickards. I'm from German Police University, and I'm supposed to chair this first session on neural networks and economic modeling. We have 4 papers to be presented. The first paper. Yeah, sure, no problem. No problem. You tell me when to start.
just thinking for shaking hands. These words and it's squeezing away. Sorry. Have another floor.
Foundation of this workshop about some currency state. Me and Tatiana, as founders of this workshop, we would like to start. So our workshop have next goal and tasks. So the main goal of workshop are to help economists to use IT in economic research and practice, for example, for simulation and forecasting, and to improve and refine the use of IT in the content of mixed economies. So the main our tasks, it's an application of IT in business, economics, finance, and research. The economics of research and development and IT industry. So we are glad to see here scientists and people from IT industry who can propose new idea and new application of their experience in our modern life. We have some main topics of our workshop, among them fuzzy logic and neural networks, computational economics and economics modeling, evolutionary and simulation economics, system analysis and data science, intelligent manufacturing and information systems, ICT education for economists. As you can see, we will found our workshop in 2020, and during this period, as you can see, number of submissions of our workshop increasingly grow. So in this case, we start from 11 submissions, and only 3 of them were accepted. After that, you can see what we have 22, 14, and in this year we have maximum number of submissions, 72. From this submission were accepted the best paper, it's 19 papers. As you can see, rate of acceptance vary from 10% to 57%. In this year, our rate of acceptance is 26%. So it's about 1 paper from 4 were accepted of our program committee. General statistics of workshop ICTERI. So in this case, you can see that number of submissions 72, acceptance rate 26, according to data of EasyChair.org, and total number of reviews of our PC chair 192. Without their help, it was impossible to have a quality assurance all these submissions. We have 2 reviews for 21 papers and 3 reviews for 50 papers. So total number of our PC members this year 57 papers. You can see that geographical distribution of our PC members, it's 20 countries. So all the world, our PC chairs make a good job, and Tatiana helped to find very many best reviewers in the world, and for example Robert Rickards, one of them, thanks a lot. So in this case we can select only best papers, and today you will present these papers here. Our offers includes 8 countries, so you can see distribution, of course, very many offers from Ukraine, 163, at the same time offers from China, Germany, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, Poland, Russia, Ukraine, and United States too. Today we will have 5 sections, and we will start our first section. In this section we'll present 2 or 3 presentations. We have some restrictions on time, so we have 20 minutes for short paper and 30 minutes for full paper. Short paper we will have 15 minutes maximum to present paper, and for full paper we will have time 20, maximum 25 minutes, and 5 questions for answers and questions. During this day, we will have a very big graphic today from 9 o'clock till 7:30 o'clock in the evening, and after that, all presented papers will be included in CEUR workshop edition, which is indexed in Scopus. So our obligatory condition for all authors, it's a physical attendance on this conference and presence of their papers. Thank you for attention, and Diana.
Good morning, everybody. I'll be very short. First of all, I want to say thank you all participants, and of course, I want to say thank you all you viewers who help us to organize this event. And I wish you a pleasant stay at the south of Ukraine. I wish you a nice job at workshop, and also we're not here not only for presenting our papers, but also for doing networking. So I hope you can find new friends for future cooperation here. Good luck, and let's start.
Okay, I'm guessing we're ready to go now. Once again, for the people who came in late, my name is Robert Rickards. I'm from the German Police University. We have 4, I believe, short papers for this session, so that's the 20-minute time allocation that Vitaly mentioned. Each of these papers has been prepared by a sizable team. I think the smallest is 3, and the remaining papers are 4 people. I'm not going to read everybody's names, and the titles are really long, but I will ask the presenter for each to please name the other members of his or her work group, and to give the full name of the paper. So, according to the program, the first person would be Andriy Matvichuk. Is he here? Hi. And I think the short title that I managed for your paper was Simulation of Crisis Contagion Process.
Presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. I would like to congratulate you with the start on this conference, and I understand high responsibility to open the most interesting, as for us, workshop. And it's really a challenge for me to present the results of our research in English, but I will try. So let's begin. I would like to present to you the presentation of the result of research for on the theme simulation of the crisis contagion process between countries with different levels of socioeconomic development. On this slide you can see the stage of our research, what is consistent from the next steps, the analysis of existing approach to model the processes of crisis contagion, identification of features that are important for selection of modeling tools, substantiation of the choice of mathematical tools for describing the transboundary contagion of crisis, construction of a generalized scheme of the system of model of transboundary distribution of crisis, and implement the developed system of models in specialized software model in MATLAB. At the beginning of our research, we carry out the analysis of existing approach to modeling of crisis inflow. One of this approach consists in analysis of negative expectation and panic, which are including to self-fulfilling crisis theory. and this theory was researched by, for example, Ukrainian scientists such as Merkulova, Tamara, and Katerina Kononova. The next approach is social avalanche process theory, which was developed by, among others, Ukrainian scientist Vitaly Dadich. Another approach to modeling of crisis inflow based on physics theory and named as wage propagation theory. This trend was presented in Ukraine by a few scientific schools of Vladimir Solovyov, Natalia Makseshka, Sergeyeva, etc. And the last presented approach, which was based was taken in the base of our approach, named as susceptible infected removed model, what came to us from medicine and based on analysis of contagion of infection between human and taken to modeling of contagion between countries. We performed the list of requirements to mathematical tools. For example, it's necessary to consider the differentiation of the set of initial conditions that significantly affect the course of the crisis within the national economies. It's necessary to take into account the non-linear relationship in predicting the object of the study. The model must have the ability to adapt in case of initial data change and dynamically adjust the parameters, etc. On this slide you can see the lists of indicators of transboundary contagion of crisis processes, which divided between such groups of indicators. For example, macroeconomic indicators for assessing economic security, indicators assessing the level of labor. A few groups of indicators, among which we can call a few indices. For example, index of exchange market pressure, corruption perception index, net foreign assets, monetization factor, share of raw material export exports income. These indicators led us to analyze the behavior of countries in the process of crisis inflow and after it. We can analyze each pair of these indicators, and we will show the same picture. For example, here you can see the distribution of countries in the axis of change in the external debt and change in the values of in national currency. Here pointed by light sphere, the countries from the group of developed economies, and dark rhombus pointed the countries from emerging economies. You can see that all countries are mixed. You can't divide the countries, the developed economies from emerging economies. And this situation is the same for each pair of indices. It may be interesting for you. The rhombus from the right down corner is Ukraine, and the square at the top of this picture is the Greece. So the next slide shows the radar chart rank correspondence coefficient for 5 next the main indices.
And some German mathematician told that now life changed so quickly that we are not in time to prepare people through school and university. We have to prepare them much quicker. So this is my children's story. One book called Stories from the Future. When I come to Belgium, I was surprised that Internet of Things and artificial intellect I already told in my stories. Vitaly, it's for you. Thank you very much.
Very much for an interesting exposition. Professor Melny, does anyone have questions for Leonid? No questions, Vitaly?
Very impressive, very information, very interesting information. I need to collect all of them, to prepare questions that I think now will be completed. I will have time to pose a question.
And one information is I told very short time and limited time. I could not tell a lot of things, but I can send you my book about third and fourth industrial revolution, both in Russian or Ukrainian languages. Unfortunately, I do not have in English 400 pages like in this book. But if somebody interested, including that book which I presented to Vitaly, please.
Mila, you had a question?
You mean Internet of Things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In Germany, it was similar situation with tubes. Just to learn how to produce better tubes was a great innovation and made able to improve some technologies. So maybe similar situation. So we use different technologies to make possible, not something completely new. But my question to you is, so you explained in a very impressive way how changeable the world is right now, and things change very quickly. But humans actually
human will be only passive factor of this process, and all cyber-physical system will do in the world, in the earth. But another way, human have possibility to be free from routine work for production. And in this case, it has to become personality, because human is the Trinity too. In our material body live absolutely information phantom. It produces information and consumes information. So, but it is very hard work and create. Why Soviet power destroyed this brotherhood? They solved the most hard and important part of this transition, phase transition. They create personality. Personality worked at the production system, but for them, it was like I'm basketballist and my colleague who also he is basketballist. For me, it is like exercise. And their work at the production sphere, it was like exercise, but they created themselves. And can you imagine that some boys, maybe 12 years, and group of scientists who come, they study brotherhood because it was fantastic phenomenon. And they watched that boy who hear pigs. He read a book, and they are interested which kind of book. It was philosophy based on Spinoza. You understand? 12 years old boy who was reading this book absolutely has, I repeat again, 100 years ago, absolutely had bachelor education. It's 700 people. Absolutely has music, artistic, can play any musical instrument, can paint, and so on. It was not only very progressive startup, and Andrei told about cluster. It was the first probably cluster in the world, but they have symphonic orchestra, theater troupe, ballet, production house, publishing house, and so on. So it is a secret which we have to just remember in our life. In Germany, I visited as well brotherhood, different, but it is live even now. Each country has own secret how to come, and basic income, it is one part of secret to face transition. You know, basic income. But in this brotherhood, it was implemented 100 years ago. Basic income. They have absolutely provision, but they cannot live even one moment without spiritual development. Thank you for listening.
And the audience for their attention and participation. This session is closed. We're off to a little break.
In this case, intercept it's our research interest, but in this case we know that dependent variables equals to intercept if our independent variables is 0. So in this case it's a standard explanation if we have 0 independent variable and intercept as a result for dependent variable.
Okay, that 4,000 stands for something, right? And when the explanatory variable is 0, there's 4,000. Okay, what is that telling us?
In this case, dependent variables, in this case, it's an adjustment to our model, but if our probability change between 0 and 1, yes, we have no such big probability. So in this case, we have no, so in this case, intercept not always have an economic interpretation. This
Okay.
one case.
Very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have some suggestions for the development of this paper. I don't know if you will have the chance to develop it further, but there is a lot of research on cryptocurrency so far. I haven't seen a slide on prior research, but there is some on that, and typically there will be taken into account variables that explain the FX rate of normal currencies to have a look if cryptocurrencies behave the same. So like the euro, US dollar, FX rate, there are variables that explain this behavior, like Brent oil price, like gold price, and so on and so forth. So you could take these into account and also to control for them. That would help. If you, personally speaking, I wouldn't use a logistic regression here, because you do something like modeling the probability that the cryptocurrency is bought at a certain day. I would rather use normal regression to explain the percentage of change of the cryptocurrency FX rate. It's a lot easier, and then you find better impact factors, because here you're losing a lot of information. Here you have just 1 or 0. Cryptocurrency is bought that certain day, and to be honest, Bitcoin is bought every day. So you're losing information on that a lot. But if you use normal regression on the FX rate change, you will have better statistical results. And you have a time series problem here. So your logistic regression is just a pooled method. But you have a time series here, and so I would rather recommend to use gauge or multivariate gauge models. They are not as complicated as they look at the first sight, and then you will find, definitely you will find impact. So your variables are well chosen, and I definitely think that you will find impacts then, and you will have much better statistical results. So I guess.
Thank you. Yes, multiple regression in this case it's more useful if you would like to explain how each factor can explain, for example, our dependent variables. In this case, it's the price of these cryptocurrencies. Goal of our paper was to select cryptocurrencies which most popular, and using logit and probit regression, we select in such a way the cryptocurrencies which have low elasticity. So in this case, after our research, we selected some of them, and after that, these cryptocurrencies were basic for investment plan, for example, for risk-seeking investors.
Okay.
So for our purposes, it will be important what reaction of customers on change in price of cryptocurrencies.
Yes, that's an important question, definitely. There are more than 2,000 cryptocurrencies. Most of them have never been traded.
Yes.
I think it's Bitcoin doing 80% of all the trade, and then there's Ethereum and so on and so forth. So the question is very important. Where does the path lead us? Will Bitcoin survive? Due to its technical problems, it will not, but which will be the next cryptocurrency then? I definitely share your thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your question. Any other questions, maybe? Thank you very much. Our next presenter, Jean-Henrik Meyer and Chen Li, who present their research, short-term electricity price forecasting using generalized additive models. So it's a full paper, so you have 25 minutes to present your research.
Can someone help us?
So this is a representation here.
No. should be available. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our today's talk on bottom. Yes. Oh, there it is. On short-term electricity price forecasting with generalized additive models. So my name is Jan Meyer. This is John Lee, my co-author, and our third co-author is my dear colleague Stefan Schneider. We are all from the Kiel University of Applied Sciences, which is in the very north of Germany at the Baltic Sea. So, this is our agenda for the next couple of minutes. First of all, we would like to introduce the problem, so rigor and relevance of our problem. Then we would like to show up the prior research, which is extensive but also rather limited in our case. We would like to go into our sample and methodology, show up the results, discuss them, and then we end with a certain conclusion and future research. Okay, so there has been extensive research done on electricity price forecasting. We have found more than 300 articles on electricity price forecasting with various and diverse methods to do so. Why is it so important? Why do so many researchers do that? In the last session, we saw a picture of a German place where solar or photovoltaic energy was collected and was put into the net. And that, of course, that only works if the sun is shining. And if we drive around here, we see wind energy, and that doesn't only work if there is wind. And of course, this affects the input of electricity into the net, and of course, the usage or the consumption of electricity energy is also affecting it, which leads to an up and down in prices at the energy exchange, which is some kind of stock exchange for our energy. So to keep the net stable, to make sure that we get some 220 volt out of our power supply, we need forecasting models taking into account the up and down of the price and the up and down of the load. May it be supply or may it be demand. We are here focusing only on the demand side, and we try to model the seasonality of the demand side, so the up and down of the consumption, the up and down of the electricity load and its implication for price. The main problem here is that energy cannot be stored. So it would be easy if we store the energy into batteries or hydrogen power if the wind is blowing or the sun is shining, but unfortunately we lose a lot of energy if we do so. So it doesn't really turn out to be profitable to store energy. Accordingly, the energy must be consumed at the same time as it is produced. And here we see this behavior. Is this a laser? No, it is not. But here we see the typical behavior throughout the course of the day. So in the night, all the lights are off and the power consumption is low. Accordingly, the price is also low. In the morning, when we stand up and brush our teeth, the power price is going up. During daytime, when we do not use lights because the sun is shining, the power price is going down again. And in the evening, when we switch up our TVs on, the power price is going up before it turns down during the night. So this is the course of the day. But of course, this course of the day is changing throughout the course of the year, and it's also changing at the weekends or weekdays. So it is different then. Here we see the time series that we use for our forecasting model. It's the electricity price at the EEX, the European Electricity Exchange. And what is conspicuous here is that we have negative power prices. Of course, me as a consumer, I do not have negative power prices, but the large consumers or the large electricity companies, they do have it. It's the situation when the demand is very low, but the supply is very high. So when the wind is shining, the sun is shining, but nobody wants to have electricity at the moment. And that electricity is pushed into the net, and the net companies try to get rid of all the electricity power by giving money just to consume that power. Well, again, we found 280 articles in one journal alone on power price forecasting. These generalized additive models, we've just found a few, although it's, well, the idea is pretty simple, but the methodology is pretty exhaustive. There are just a few, namely 2 of them, who used generalized additive models. So mainly this is a research gap, and they are very much able to model the seasonality throughout the day and the year and so on and so forth. Well, so our sample, come on, it's so small. Our sample is a few years, and we tested always to forecast 1 week. We did this several times, and we recalculated against our forecast against the true value that turned out to be traded at the electricity exchange. Here to our right, we see several pictures of our dimensionality problem. So it's the same electricity price shown throughout the course of the day and throughout the course of a week and throughout the course of the year. So mainly these are the variables that we've taken into account. We left out all other explaining variables because we just want to model the seasonality, well knowing that other authors have also introduced wind power, solar energy, and so on and so forth. We use a benchmark model. We typically use the Arimax, the autoregressive integrated moving average model with external variables. Here we use 40 dummy variables that just tell us about the hour of the day of the week, and the month of the year. We use 5 different GAM setups, and I think Sean is now explaining those setups to us.
It's getting a bit technical here.
Would you like to use the mic?
No, it's fine. Okay. I think I'm loud enough. The idea of GAM is not new, but it's very underused, I guess. So when I came across this, I think it was a really good opportunity to apply these methods here. The basic idea of GAM is just also a normal minimization of the residual sum of square. That's normal, but then we have here an equation, and on the left side, the plus sign, that's like the really normal least square. That means we need to minimize the distance between the predicted value and the real value, so that the closer it gets, the closer we'll have a fit. But to the extreme of that, we will have an overfitting, and that will play really good with the in-sample method, but it will be not so good with the out-of-sample method that we're trying to forecasting. So the second part of the plus is this second derivative, and that is that is the
edginess.
Yeah, the wiggliness of the smooth functions. Well, in the end, we're trying to make a regression, but not like linear, but we're trying to make non-linear regression, and that that presents this wiggliness of the smooth functions. And if we minimize that, if this wiggliness goes to zero or leads to zero, we'll have like a completely smooth function. So this gamut idea is basically a trade-off, a balance between model complexity and model accuracy. We don't want to overfit things, but we also don't want to over-smooth things and take a chance of missing a lot of patterns in there. So the key of this balancing is that lambda right there in front of the second part, and that is the smoothing parameters that controls how much smooth the model's gonna need in order to balance out this kind of effects. And in the end, we have a process using generalized cost validation to find out the optimal value of this lambda. And the 5 models are, that was our train of thoughts at the beginning. So the generalized additive model, it got its name, it's an additive model because, for example, if you see in the model 1, we have a lot of different effects that was summed together, but they are not assumed to be linear. So that is the part of the additive effect of the additive model. So we have, we tried to take just the hourly prices and then extracting out the 3 main seasonality: the daily, the course of a day, weekly, weekend, weekdays, and the yearly, in the course of the months. So the first model we have just normal one, and then we thought we have to take the interactions of these variables into account. What if what is the price on Thursday, but on December? Is it different from Thursday in June, for example? And that's where we came to the second model. This has a problem because these prices are on different scales. So we cannot just take them all, put them in a pot, and then label just one lambda parameters on top. Just label one smoothing parameters on top. That wouldn't work that way. So there we have the model M3, and we use tensor product. That is product with different directions that will go in different directions, and each directions will take a different smoothing parameters. But here we have the problem again that this is really computer intensive, because if we take 3 parameters here into consideration with the price, also we'll have here 4th dimensional. We have here 4th dimensional, and if we just keep on adding variables, that will be so complex. So we developed the 4th model that is taking only pairwise of the variables into account. For example, the daily and weekly, daily and yearly, and weekly and yearly. We take that into account, put them on, get them their own smoothing parameters, and there's the M4, and the M5 is just taking M1 and M4 together. And the idea is that we have to differentiate the soul of the individual effect that, for example, the daily variable has on the price, and its interactions with, for example, the week and the year, which part is just its own effect and which part its interactions to the other variables. So we came to the model M5, and as you can see here, that is the graph. That is the graph that we have put out for our models. And the interactions, for example, the first line is that is hourly and weekly. So the second one is just a flipped image, but on the top is this hourly and weekly. So you see, we go into one direction, that is how it will behave on daily basis, and the other, that is how they'll behave on monthly, for example, in the course of different months. So I think that's that. This is our result table, and here's again our randomly chosen 12 phases in 2007, and then we had 5 years of training data sets. And we use RMSE, we use root mean square errors as our benchmarking measure, and GAM, GAM1, outperform, yeah, that's the word, outperform roughly 75% of the times here in comparison Aremax and naive. We had a paper also on using neural networks also, and that was not in time, but we would really want to test it out, GAM versus DNN. So that is, oh shoot. Okay.
I think that was it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just a conclusion and that's.
So the rest is only conclusion.
Yeah. Well, in conclusion, I think our paper is just a basis of the capacity what we could do. We could add more variables. We could try to incorporate the weights. For example, like should older data be taken less important into consideration as opposed to newer data? That's one question I've yet to find an answer to. We could find like more measures, more benchmarking measures, and more benchmarking models to test it out this GAM. But I think the generalized additive model, it's just really intuitive, and it's a really cool measure. And everyone now is just talking about neural networks and decision trees and everything. But I think, yeah, I'm gonna stick with this and see how it happens. Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. So please, now the time for questions. Who will first? You're welcome.
Okay. I know that longest period of existence, so how many days of existence, so negative price. And how did you solve that it's possible to stop negative price and to come for plus price, positive price?
Well, that's a very important question. Roughly 2 months ago, it was several hours across one day. What happened then? The large power-producing companies started reducing their capacity. I have to explain that because currently we have a basic load. So what you've seen, this N-shaped form, is typically a peak load. So we have a peak in the morning and we have a peak in the evening, but there is a base load underneath it. And this base load is typically supplied by coal power, so coal burning, and nuclear power. But if during a longer time we see negative prices, those companies thinking about turning down the coal burning or turning down the nuclear power plants. But it is very, very complicated to switch off coal burning or nuclear power. So, and it's also very complicated to switch them on again. So, so they would rather pay negative prices for a certain period before they start reducing the capacity of nuclear power or coal burning. But in the end, after 8 hours of negative prices, they are thinking about taking them off the net. And that was what happened two months ago, roughly.
And maximum it's a few hours.
A few hours, yes.
And can I, second question. I know that Germany has a plan to stop.
Opinion on that, but it's only an opinion. We currently not only try to get out of nuclear power, but also out of coal burning, because we can't reach the Paris targets on CO2 emissions. So currently we are following the plan to stop both. My opinion is that we will fail, because it is simply not handleable. Our politicians currently dream of something like a smart grid. So smart technologies, like forecasting technologies, are steering the grid in a way that everybody will be supplied with green energy. But there is only green energy if we have solar power or if we have wind power. If both is not existing, there is no power to distribute. So, and to have a smart grid, first of all, you need a grid, and then you can make it smart. And we have a problem of building up power lines and power piles, because Germany has 80 million inhabitants on a very small part of land. So people start protesting if they want to build a power line above their house, because nobody wants to have a power line going across his house. And so we have these two problems, and I guess it's, well, it's a cuckoo's house idea to get out of nuclear power and out of coal burning at the same time. All other European countries decided to get out of coal, but to stay in nuclear power. I think that is maybe not in the long run, because we have to discuss about nuclear waste too, of course. But in the short run, I think that strategy is better.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next question, please.
Jan and Chen, possible suggestion that might be interesting for people who follow your work, because you gave a related paper last year at ICTERI, and there was no reference to it in this paper. And besides contrasting your results for the 5 GAMS models, it might be interesting to hear what the differences are to the more traditional or conventional presentation that you gave last year. And that's just for the methods folks who enjoy following the development in your research. And for Chan, that might be also emphasize the significance of the progression with his addition to your work.
Thank you very much for the suggestion, and we're going to do that, yes.
Any other questions? So I have one question. You demonstrated training period of data set, but I didn't see predicting period. So it's your future work in this direction.
There is that.
It's always 1 week.
There's the training phase. It's running across 5 years, and then the test phase, and then the test phase is then.
Test phase is so the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, and what results from your 5 models, what was the best maybe result of prediction in some conditions? What's difference between these 5 models? What's give your best results of prediction?
Well, as I've mentioned before, I will just go back real quick here. Okay, so the 3rd model, the M3, that would be the best hypothesis scenario, because it takes every single variable, every single exponential variables into consideration, and then at the same time giving them their own smoothing parameters. But that will make it like a 4-dimensional regression, and that is I think it's starting to be too much for the computers to compute. So that's why I broke it down to the Motor M4. That's just a slightly alternative way to do it by just taking pairs, just pairs of interactions, and then just a bit tuning down the computive exhaustion. Yeah. So results-wise, that would be the M3, I guess. But then the practical one, I'd say, is the M5.
So from a scientific standpoint, we could say, who cares about computer exhaustiveness?
Yes.
But from a practical standpoint, we are forecasting hourly power prices, and a model that runs 8 hours to be calculated is simply unfeasible for practice. It doesn't make any sense. So we need models that can be calculated in a few minutes, but not who do not calculate 8 hours. That's why M3 is not yet feasible. Maybe if we have large computers doing the job, but we don't have them yet. Not at our university.
Thanks a lot.
That's for our IT colleagues. They have a little work to do on their end.
Yeah.
Well.
So, thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you again for the conference. It's my first time being here, and I'm really thankful for my professor. I'm just a bachelor student. This is my first research paper, and I'm here presenting it at the international conference. So thank you a lot. Thank you all, and I'm happy to have a great remaining time at the conference.
Thanks a lot for your interesting presentation. So we have our fourth presentation. Presenter is Tatiana Bayenko. Topic is forecasting prices on the stock exchange using a trading system.
Forecasting prices on the stock exchange using trade system. Actually, this paper was written by 2 optimists and 1 pessimist. Optimist didn't come. So pessimist came, and this is cooperative to work together with National University of Natural Resources and Kiev National Economic University. So I'm here from the National Economic University. So why do we talk about price forecasting on exchange? The last one, but actually it wasn't the last one. Okay, this is the structure of my presentation. I understand that it's almost lunchtime and I'm trying to be short. But anyway, why did we choose this topic? So actually the decision was made just because everybody wants to earn more money, and of course many people think about possibilities to earn more money playing on the stock exchange. And I remember my first lecture at Mastery Summer School, and the teacher told us, okay, I will explain you some techniques, but please don't be angry at me if you keep losing your money. And I understand why. To my mind, it's almost not impossible to predict prices on stock exchange, but some techniques, some computer techniques can help to avoid huge losses. So basically this paper is a compromise between forecasting prices and not losing money. We did a number of papers related to this topic. Due to lack of time, I skip literature review because I upload my presentation so you can see it on the easy chair. But I will go directly to the methodology. So the main idea was to develop an algorithm that can help to forecast prices with a high probability of correctness. And this algorithm, the creation of algorithm consists of 6 stages. So the first stage, it was a design of trading algorithm, just within the goal that we have, that we would like to achieve with this algorithm. In this case, it's just forecasting of prices that we would like to make the most real. So we didn't use stop loss approach. Of course, we try to consider getting profit. This is why models that show the constant loss were excluded on future steps. The main idea of creating consolidated algorithm is put together different models and calculate coefficients of influence on the stock prices. So we include multiplier model, discounted cash flow, and neural network model. On the second stage, the second stage of the methodology is to write an algorithm of action in the trading system in the program language R using C++ to extract data to automate all process and all calculations, because it's a lot of data for a large period of time. Third stage is constructing the algorithm and is testing the trading system. The testing stage has two goals. The first one is to determine if the system performs the specified functions, price forecasting, and the second one is to check the possibility of obtaining profits and the risk of losses. The fourth stage, it was selecting a sample. So we use data from New York's stock exchange, and we choose those companies who had quotation last 20 years, and also we try to choose companies from different industries. So selected companies on the slide, as you can see, they are related to different industries. This is how we try to avoid just influence from the one industry. The first stage is optimization. So the object of optimization is a coefficient of reliability of the model, with which is possible to achieve the best consolidated forecast. Here we see the components of process of optimization. So the first one is selection of model parameters. The second one is setting the ranges of the scanning. The third is determination of the sample size. The fourth is determination of criteria for evaluation selection of a better model, and determine the criteria for evaluation of the test forecast as a whole. The sixth stage is an assessment of the ratio of the real trade indicators with projected indicators. And if the real figures differ much from the test once for no clear reasons, then I need to return to step number 3 and repeat this again. If we talk about mathematical formalization, consolidated forecast consists of three models with weighted coefficient. We use the first model, just general linear regression, just to check how our model, how forecast from our model is different from linear regression. Why linear regression was used? It's because this is the most popular model for trading systems. Now it's used because it's, let's say, the simplest one, but it also has it also shows a high level of deviation from real prices. Indicators that were used for calculations. So as you can see, we use available data from financial reports. So we use from the income statement, revenue, income, dividends. Also we use from statement of financial position, assets, liabilities, total shareholders' equity, and current liabilities. And also we included in calculations cash flow from operating activities, investment activities, and financial activities. Also we consider we considered general influence of the market by including standard Poor's 500 index in the model, and we did it on a quarterly basis. And also two variables, price 1 and price 2, they are needed to calculate corrected data for natural network model and for the discounted cash flow model. Here is the result of calculation. If we talk about financial coefficients, I forgot to tell that as a basic company for modeling was used Nike Corporation. Why Nike? Because it doesn't have very complicated revenue structure due to products, but it has complicated revenue structure due to wide geographical distribution of their products. And the highest relation was found out between revenue, between prices and revenue. A less relation was found between income and prices, and dividends didn't have a big influence on prices of Nike Corporation. After that, we calculated correlation coefficients, the scatter plot and histogram for distribution between assets, share capital, liabilities, and share prices for Nike Corporation. What's interesting from all the scatter plots is that we see right side asymmetry, and it says that the company is on the stage of growing. After all those calculations were done, so we built a regression model on stock prices forecast and tested this model in real time, and also we compare results of our model with a linear regression model. And also we used as a sample data that were not included in the previous calculation. So the model was built on one data, and the testing was done on that sample that we used for calculation, and also for the samples that was not included in calculation. So this is how we prove that it works with different data too. And as you can see from this calculations, if you compare forecasted prices that were predicted using different models, the smallest deviation is shown by consolidated model. Also, what also was interesting with using this consolidated model, when we compare results with a linear regression model, we realized that we discovered that linear regression model gave wrong prediction in 30% of the total situation. It shows that the market is going down, so it's like it's recommended not to buy, not go into the market, but actually it was wrong. Talking about consolidated model, it showed better results, but it's only 13% higher than from linear model. So this is why I'm said at the beginning that I'm still pessimistic about all this calculation about forecasted prices in the stock market. Anyway, we are going to continue our work in the future, and first of all, we're going to expand our sample. We're going to test these results on different companies. Also, we're going to test it not only on stocks of one company. We're going to apply this technique to portfolio of different securities, and we'll see how it works with portfolio. So I was trying to be very short. I was trying not to keep you out of lunch, but thank you very much for your attention, and I'm ready for questions.
Thank you. So, your questions, please.
Tanya, in your model, you have primarily economic and financial variables.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things we know about markets is they're also emotional. And there's a great deal of psychology present in the, for your future research, do you plan, the market was behaving wonderfully a month ago, and then an orange-haired individual decided to start a trade war with China. That variable's outside your model, but it definitely had an influence on market prices, and not just on the New York exchange, but in Hong Kong and Shanghai also. In future iterations of this model, do you plan to include some non-economic and non-financial variables as well?
Yes, it's actually it's necessary, but it's not very easy.
No.
It's not very easy, first of all, due to if you talk about behavior, the problem is that people in different parts of the world, they react differently. So the reaction in the United States and, for example, in Western Europe and Eastern Europe and Asia will be different for the same signal. This is why, yes, I keep it in mind, but I still don't know how to do it. And this is why I'm a bit skeptical about models that are based only on financial indicators. And I think it's not possible to achieve the result. It's not possible to achieve results that shows like 50% of confidence in this model. So we achieve 44, and I guess I don't think it's possible to achieve more right now on available data and available techniques. But with psychological factors, yes, it could be possible. Thank you.
Please, the next question.
Thank you for your presentation. Tell me, please, why have you used fundamental analysis rather than technical or alternative approach?
Actually, it's a good question because it's a big research. We use all three approaches. I just presented only one because two are not finished yet. We still didn't get reliable results, but probably next time, with my colleagues, we present new.
And one question I have, why did you use Nike company for prediction analysis? Why did you use Nike company, as I understand from this presentation?
Nike, it's because we need to consider not only internal factors, but also factors from outside of the company. And it means that the company has to be shown up in different markets. And it must be like equally. And also, it's a question of availability of the data. As I said, it must be, so we use data from the last 20 years, and it's not, each company was so stable on the market during the last 20 years.
Thank you. Any other questions? So, thank you for your activity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
So we will close our second session, and I propose to go to Café Univers to have a lunch, and after that at 2 o'clock we will continue here on our next session. Thank you for your
Say you want to be loved like more want to be loved. Say you get that vibe like we all feel that vibe. Say you would feel it the vibe of this night. Say you will breathe it in the morning light. Say you want to get high like we all getting higher. Say you're feeling your dreams like we all feel our dreams. Say you will feel it the vibe of this night. Say you will breathe it in the morning light. you.